Okay, yes, we're just getting started here as usual. Like to get all set up. This is going to be a special episode of RPG College. Let's see where we're going to go at. This is just, it's special in the fact that it's A, it's got a theme, and B, it's not a scheduled broadcast. I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Of course, I do a lot of unscheduled broadcasts. If you don't catch it here live on Twitch, it will be available on YouTube later. It's gonna put out a couple of advertisements on like Discord. Open Discord. Do the online version of it. Let's see. There's a new self-promotion channel. Paste. And let's see. They have a streamers channel. And they have a self-promotion channel. Okay. Let's see here. Go ahead and put it in on Discord. I've advertised it on Facebook. So let's go to Twitter. Let's put it out on Twitter too. I never do anything on Twitter. Let's see, who am I logged in as? Twitter. Okay. Add an existing account. Let's see, let's paste this here. Um, let's see, doing tweet. Okay. All right, now let's see. Let's see if there's anybody actually watch. It does look like we've got a viewer. Let me refresh my manager just to be sure. Then we'll get started on this. Yep, looks like we do have one viewer. We always seem to have one viewer. That's nice. If you are viewing the channel and you're actually actively viewing, go ahead and say hi in channel so I know who you are. It's always good to know. This is the Gamer Seuss channel of Twitch, where we talk about retro gaming, tabletop role-playing games, and other interests of mine. Also, All my shows are kind of dedicated to Extra Life, which means at any time, if you're watching my show, you can go in and type exclamation Extra Life in the chat channel, as I'm doing now. And the bot will give you a link to go to my Extra Life page to donate to Extra Life for your local area. Looks like we now have 2 viewers. That's great to see. Let me actually switch it over so you guys can see my face now. I'm Doc. Most people know me as Doc. Clyde Star. I run this channel. And every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., I do run the RPG College as my normal show as an open forum. Today is a special show because I'm going to focus on a specific topic. I think it's one that's pretty near and dear to a lot of gamers, and that's getting new people started in the game and what they need to do. I do see a lot of posts online from new people interested in gaming. They want to know what it is they should pick up in order to get started and how do they break into this hobby of ours. And of course, we try to be a very inclusive hobby. We don't like to gatekeep too much. So that's kind of what we're here for. We're here to spread the hobby around to everybody and share our wonderful love of Dungeons and Dragons. And currently that edition is 5th edition D&D. So without any further ado, we'll get started. It does look like we only got 1 or 2 people in the channel right now. That's fine. If you are watching this, you know somebody that might be interested in it and they don't get to catch it live, I will be moving this over to YouTube pretty quickly. I do generally move my videos over to YouTube within 7 to 10 days. So you can go to YouTube and search Gamer Seuss. That's GAMERSEUSS to find my YouTube channel. And there you can actually see all the various videos that I've done previously. I've only been streaming since April, so there's not a whole lot, but there's more than you might expect. In the last 30 days, I've done over 50 hours of streaming, so it is available there. What we're doing is we're talking today about getting started in specifically 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, although some of these concepts will work with getting started in any role-playing game. Sorry, I had to chew on some ice there. Now, first off, when you start playing Dungeons & Dragons, the 5th edition is a good place to start because the basic rules are available for free on Wizards of the Coast website. You can go to wizards.com or go to dndbeyond.com and you can search for the basic rules and you can download a free PDF of those rules. And that includes all the bare bones you need to actually play. You can play with that and nothing else and you're just fine. Now, that's not going to give you a ton of options. It's just going to give you a taste, but it's a good way to get started. Now, when you actually really get ready to sit down at a table to play 5th edition, what we do recommend for players of the game is it's a nice idea to have your own copy of the player handbook. Let's see here. Let's bring up a bigger copy here so you can see. On Amazon, you can of course purchase the player handbook, as you can see right there, for $33.74 right now. The actual MSRP of the book is like $59.95, so you're actually getting it at a pretty good discount off of that price. And Amazon's normal price, list price, is like $49.95. So that's now I am an Amazon Prime member, and that's what's showing on my one. If you're not a Prime member, your price might be slightly different, and you can sometimes find them cheaper, especially if you go into the used section for the hardcover. But this is the player handbook here, and it is the main book you're going to need because it's going to have all the main resources you need to play. In addition to the player handbook, of course, you really don't need much else other than your own set of polyhedral dice. Polyhedral dice are the different random number generators used in the game for whenever anything is in doubt. Now, this is a nice metal set I'm showing on the screen right now. But let's see here. I want to make sure I can see if anybody's posting, those dice will help you play the game. So whenever the dungeon master, the person running the game, tells you to roll a check in the game, you will use those dice in various ways to do it. So that's usually the bare minimum you need: your own player handbook and your own set of dice, and maybe some scratch paper and a miniature if you're going to be playing on a grid. But it's not absolutely required. There's two methods of playing um, tabletop role-playing games. There's a method called theater of the mind, where you don't actually set out all the battle maps and the terrain stuff, but you do it all in your head. You describe the scene, and everything is relative in your mind, so you don't have that visual necessarily. If you do need a short visual, you might sketch something out on a napkin or a piece of paper real quick just to illustrate a small area, but you're not doing a full-on battle with miniatures and terrain and all the setup. And then the other is, of course, the flip side, which is the miniatures and terrain. Dungeons and Dragons did come from the game Chainmail that was put out by TSR. TSR was the company that originally originated Dungeons and Dragons back in 1974, and they did it because Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson had been, playing Chainmail and other tactical simulation games for a while. They were war gamers. They would go to Gen Con, which at that time was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where it got its name. And they got the idea of, what if we were to, instead of focusing on these big armies and stuff, what about if we focus in on the individual adventurers, the heroes that go out and do little, like, special forces missions and stuff in a fantasy type setting? Instead of playing the entire army of Mordor in the Lord of the Rings, for instance, what if we were just going to play the companions from the Fellowship of the Rings? We just wanted to play Frodo and Samwise and Aragorn and Boromir and everybody coming out from the last Homely House and stuff. And so we wanted a detailed thing, and everybody got to play one of those characters and control the actions of that character. And so they came up with the original Dungeons and Dragons set, and it premiered in 1974. It was a bunch of beige-ish pamphlets. That's the game I started with in '78. Was that series? Although by '78 they had already come out with basic and had started to come out with some of the advanced Dungeons and Dragons preliminary stuff. Although really in '79, '80 is when they really premiered Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Um, but there's two methods of playing the game then, and the other method is the miniatures method, where you have vinyl maps, or you have what's called geomorphs, or pre-printed map sections, or you might even have 3D map things from someplace like Hero Forge that you put your miniatures in, and you got a miniature representing each character and each monster, a miniature or a token or a Lego piece or something like that to represent where you are relative to each other, and it's usually on a square or hexagonal grid to show movement. And this is the way that a lot of people play the game. Some people will say that this whole focus on the grid is something new to the game. It's very much a third and fourth edition kind of new beast, but really, as I said, it came from wargaming and tactical gaming. So this has actually been more the default the entire time I've been playing, and I've been playing for 42 years. Like I said, I started in 1978. But theater of the mind is also another type of play where you don't actually need all those grids. And partly it can come down to how much space do you have to play. I mean, to get everybody around a table, especially in a bigger group, can be quite difficult with miniatures and all that, and to prep all things, to transport all those maps and terrain pieces and stuff can be kind of a hassle. So theater of the mind is easier. I know people that'll play on car trips where, while one person's driving, everybody else is kind of playing in a van together, and they're talking. They're not doing as much necessary dice rolling, or they might have like a dice rolling app on their phone to roll dice, so they don't have to worry about spilling the dice all over in the car. And they have their character sheets set up on online apps or in PDF form or notepad form, so that they can do that, and they'll just play that way. And they do theater of the mind because they don't have the room and it's more convenient. So either way is okay ways to play. But generally, basically, when you want to play Uh, we recommend that most players have a copy of the player handbook because that's the one that's going to teach you most of the rules, even more than the basic rules, because it's got a little bit more detail on some of the options that aren't included in the basic PDF. And it's in a hardbound book that you can actually, hold in your hand and stuff and take with you to the various game stores, which to some people it's a very important tactile part of the game. So picking up that player handbook is probably the first real purchase that you as a gamer is going to want. Now, there's a couple of other possibilities you could pick up. There's the starter set, which is a little bit cheaper. Right now, you can get it at Amazon for as low as looks like $12.49. What my price would be, the retail is about $19.99 on Amazon, and I think it runs like $25 at the store right now if you buy it at a brick and mortar store. And this has got the basics. It's basically got the basic rules, a little bit more expanded upon for the player handbook, monster manual, and DMG. So it's got details on some monsters, some dungeon mastering, and it has a set of dice, and it has a introductory adventure called the Mines of Phandelver, along with some pre-generated characters to play. So it's a perfect getting you started adventure thing that you can get, and it's kind of a part way between going ahead and getting the player handbook and buying the full core set of everything you need. If you're going to be a starting DM, this is a good one to start with because it gives you kind of everything you want to start out owning when you go to play Dungeons and Dragons. Now let's see if there's any comments in the channel real quick. Okay, nobody so far, so we'll continue. Now, when you're playing and you go out, of course you've got your player handbook or you've got your essentials, your starter kit. I'm sorry, and you got your dice. And another option other than the starter kit is also called the essentials kit. It came about a little bit later. It's slightly more expensive. It's about $25 on Amazon. I think it runs $30 at the store. But right now I can get it on Amazon for $15.59, which means if you're an Amazon Prime member, you should be able to get it for about the same, and of course free shipping. Essentials kit has got a little bit more in it than the starter kit. It explains things a little bit better. It does come with its own introductory adventure too. Let's see, does this have a detail of all the stuff that comes in here? Yeah, this doesn't really detail everything that comes in the essentials kit, but the essentials kit is only slightly more than the starter kit, but it goes into a little bit more detail on starting people out. Um, Both the essentials kit and the starter kit have a lower quality but still serviceable Dungeon Master screen, which is used to protect the Dungeon Master's notes from everybody's eyesight. If you're getting ready to start DMing it, it's got a different adventure that you can play to get started, and it actually can take off where Mines of Phandelver, the adventure in the starter set, leaves off, if I remember correctly. Um, but this is a great kit to get you started if you want to look at. So your three main choices would be just a player handbook, the starter kit, or the essentials kit if you're getting started. And if you're DM, I recommend the essentials or the starter kit. Where if you're just a player, maybe the player handbook is fine. Or like I said, just go on to wizards.com or dndbeyond.com and download the basic rule set for free. They make it available for free, so you're not bootlegging or pirating anything. Fifth edition is supposed to be the most approachable edition of Dungeons and Dragons, so they do make that out to be a thing. Now, speaking of tools like D&D Beyond, you're going to want to expand on your game and find some other ways to help your game go. And D&D Beyond is one of the most valuable online tools that you can get. Now, this is a membership service portal, which means you can pay a monthly membership to be able to use D&D Beyond, or you can pay an annual membership. It's not too bad. And you can buy the books on digital form, and you'll have them here on D&D Beyond. They'll be in your source books, and I don't own all of these books. This is just links to all of them. But if I don't own the book, it'll come and say that it'll take me to a link in the marketplace where I could buy the online version. The online version is usually cheaper than a physical copy. So like if the book itself retails for $59.95 or something like the Player Handbook does, you can get it for $29.99 digitally. And you're not just getting the PDF of the book because it's fully integrated into all these tools up here. Uh, Now, as a basic member of D&D Beyond, as a free membership, there is a free membership. You can make, I think it's 6 characters uh, for free. And they include all the rules from the basic rules already integrated into the system because you don't have to pay for those because that's a free service. And there's a sprinkling of other stuff to give you just a taste of some of the other things. Like, for instance, you you can have an introduction to some of the Critical Role content, um, like the Blood Hunter class that was specially side made for Vin Diesel's Last Witch Hunter by Matt Mercer. That is made available as Critical Role content. Uh, there's a little like for some of the demo content is made available, and there's the ability to homebrew content into it. I have a master level subscription, which means not only can I have unlimited characters on the game, and I can have the subscription basically for my household that way, um, but also I have the ability to set up campaigns under my collection. I have my campaigns, and members of my campaign, I can share the books I've purchased digitally with the members of my campaign when they go to make a character in that campaign. So I basically have book sharing. So it's just like having a physical book and sharing them with your players. So that's an excellent opportunity as well. Um, I pay something like $60 annually for my subscription, something like that. Let me look at the marketplace, look at subscriptions so I can give you some prices here. Uh, an annual $54.99 billed every 12 months is what I pay. And it'll bill me again in September. Uh, you can get the hero annually. Just that's the one that it doesn't quite have all the DM sharing, but it does unlock unlimited characters, and that's $25.99 a year. So for less than $30 a year, you could have this annual. And mine's of course canceled because I went and upgraded to the higher master level. And then when you go to buy the books, you can buy the entire book, or you can buy the books in segments. Like, for instance, what if you wanted to get just the races out of Volo's Guide to Monsters? You just wanted the player character races activated so you can use them in your character builder and such. You could unlock just the races, and you would buy the races at a discount price. And then later on, if you decided that you wanted to buy Volos, and it would look and see that you'd already bought the races part of it, and it would discount that off of your final price to buy the rest. Now, if you do the subscription plans, here's a kind of a breakdown on the tiers. Um, in the free trial, you get ads displayed, and in any of the paid ones, you don't have to worry about ads. They both will let you do purchasing and put a content in, or all three will. All three of them will let you use live site tools. Now, early access to new tools only goes to the paid ones. The free one does not get early access stuff. Like the new Theros guide just came out. That's early access. Community forums is available to everybody. And characters, you get up to 6 characters with the free. And then you use a digital character sheet for up to 6 characters. And then export the character for printing up to those 6 characters. But you can actually delete a character and make a new character and stuff, and have your rotating 6 characters there. You can save the characters as PDFs and stuff, so you can design the character on D&D Beyond, then delete it and save it, but then you have to manually level it up as you go. But it's an option for people who are kind of short on cash, where you have unlimited with the other two, the paid accounts. Homebrew content, you can create homebrew content for private use in all of them. You can share it publicly for all of them, but you can't use the public homebrew content unless you've got a paid subscription. And for campaigns, you can create and join campaigns with all of them, but you can only share unlocked official content with others for up to 3 campaigns with the master level. And during the pandemic, they've actually expanded that to 6, and these will handle up to 12 players each. Um, and then there's encounter and combat tracking, which is in beta, and you can have up to 8 encounters set up as a free user. Um, that's everything. And then as a paid user, you have unlimited and full access. So that's the breakdown of those things. So it's an excellent tool to get, and a lot of gamers are gaming online with Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. So it's an excellent tool to have because it's already a digital tool. You don't have to carry all the extra books and stuff around. It even has recently added some dice rolling functionality. So if you build your character, you can go into your collection, grab a character. I'm just going to grab one of the first characters that comes up. Druida. This is actually one of my girlfriend's characters in my Monday game. And it'll show you the character in the screen. And this is compatible on phone, tablet, or PC, or Apple Macintosh. Comes up really nice looking. You've got tabs of different information that you can go around and figure out. And if you wanted to roll the dice on something, you could click on it and roll the dice. Like that's a Constitution roll, con check. You can clear it all. You can set up specialty dice. Here's your dice manager just to roll an individual die for some reason. So like if you want to roll a D4, D6, D8, 2D10, single D10, D12, and D20. The 2D10 would be for percentages. The first D10 would be the hundreds place, the tens place. The second one would be the ones place. And if you roll double zeros, that counts as 100. It's used for any kind of percentile dice rolls, so you can do that as well in here, and you can activate things like if your character gets inspiration, you can click right there and you get a little mark for inspiration, and then you can click on it again to take off the mark to show you don't. You can put in your wounds, and a couple things. You can put it right here, or you can click right here and bring up a little wound tracker area. If you ever go down to 0 lower, this area here will change, and it'll have the place for you to do your death saving throws, successes and failures. If you get even just 1 hit point healed, of course, you're back up. If you want to share your character, you can do it here. If you want to activate a short rest on your character and what options you have for it, you can click on short rest. If you want to activate a long rest, you can do that as well. You hit short rest, you come here, it makes you confirm it. You can say reset maximum hit points during short rest, which is one of those optional recovery rules. You can spend some of your hit dice and so on in the short rest, long rest. You can go directly to the builder, which basically brings you into the edit mode of the character if you need to do any editing. Except the spells are detailed. Your actions in combat are detailed so you know what all your basic standard actions are for your character. From everything from dagger and weapon to like spells like Thorn Whip or Unarmed Strike or Claws because she's a tabaxi, she's a cat person. Those are her basic things that she's doing. Excuse me, with some details about it. So D&D Beyond makes it quite a useful tool, and you can turn on the animation or off with this little flickering fire twinkle here. I usually keep it going, but right now you see it's turned off. But if I was to turn it back on, it is a little hidden. I turn it back on, and now I go into collection. Now it's got the full color 3D. One moment, it does look like I've got somebody at the door. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Enterprising kids at the door wanting to get paid to mow people's lawns, but we have a 14-year-old who does that, so we're not going to pay other people. As you can see, there's animation that you can have turned on, um, homebrew content that you can look up under your collections, game rules, sources, tools, marketplace, media, all this kind of stuff becomes available to you through D&D Beyond. Like I said, some of it's for free, and some of it you get a little bit more out of it if you get a paid collection. So that's definitely something that you want to check out if you're going to be starting in the game. I highly recommend it, especially like I said, with all the online gaming that's going on. It's really convenient to have all your information where you can access it on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. You don't have to carry around a bunch of character sheets. You can update as you level your character. You're not constantly reprinting them out. But you could print them out from here if you wanted to. I use it as a dungeon master to make NPCs or pre-gens for things like conventions and stuff. So it's a wonderful tool to have. That's one of the reasons I have a master level subscription. So I definitely recommend it as one of the tools you can use. Now, another thing, this is with COVID and the quarantines that we recently had, the shelter at home rule, a lot of people have moved to playing online. And as a new player, you might have trouble finding a local game to play, but you can always go and find an online game to try to join in on. And probably one of the best resources for that, and mentioning the COVID and everything, is Roll20. Now, if you go to Roll20, I'm logged in actually here into a Roll20 virtual game. This is actually a virtual game of the Mines of Phandelver. The DM will have access to various pages that he can put you on with different maps. He can develop tokens and run you through the system. Like the players are sitting here in this part. This is the Lost Mines of Phandelver. Here are the pre-generated characters as they're already set up as tokens for the game. And you can move those around, as you can see, throughout the board. There's some tools and stuff in here in the actual game itself. When you're not in the game itself, though, you can exit the game. You're going to be in your basic Roll20 page. And I'm going to go to the home page. Home page as a DM here. It shows some of the adventures that I'm part of. I actually run these games. These are the recent games I've gone through, but I'm actually running. But if I was a player, it would have the games that I play in. I'm not currently playing in any games right now. I'm just DMing or using them for tutorials for purposes like this video. But this is one of the main player hubs for online play of Dungeons and Dragons right now. But not just Dungeons and Dragons. You can go into the games and you can join a game, and you can search through different types of games and different games. As you can see here, you click here, there's all kinds of different gaming systems, not just Dungeons and Dragons. There's different editions of Dungeons and Dragons. There's Pathfinder Adventures, there's Battletech, there's Burning Wheel, there are card games or board games on here. This is an entire virtual tabletop that you can use with all kinds of games that you can go through. You can also build custom games. You can sort by relevance. You can put keyword matches. You can see if they welcome new players, mature content, free to play or not. Some of them pay to play. The new paid DM thing is big out there. So Roll20 is another great place to go for that. There's generic listings. If you haven't done any filters at all, it'll just put you listings for everything down here. You can just scroll through, and it tells you descriptions. You can then go to their individual game. Say, for instance, if you wanted to go to this game here, you go to its individual game page, and it gives you details on the game, and there might be little forums or discussions that you could add in saying, oh, I want to apply to be in your game. And, you got a lot of details about the game down here. It tells you if it's pickup name, pay to play, all of the different things like from your filters before, audio and visual, because Roll20 does support both microphone and cam, so you can have several players with their cams going on Roll20 and their microphones with either push to talk or freeform talking all the time. I do recommend push to talk when you get a few players there. I sometimes play with as many as 12 or 15 players, so you definitely want push to talk when that's going on. But this is a tool you can use as well when you're just getting started. It's a great place to find your first opening games. Beginner games are quite common here. Like I said, under the join a game system, you would go to join a game. You would start here. You could put in 5e, and it'll bring up 5th edition D&D. You can sort by relevance, and you can say only games that welcome new players. Go ahead and keep the mature content off for now, just to give you an example, and only free to play games. And you can do find games, and that'll refine the search down here to just games that meet your criteria. Then you can go through and you can see if they've got available players, spots. If it's a new game, it'll have this little new flag on it. There might be, like you said, a graphic involved. It tells you who the DM is if you want to message them directly, how long they've been a member, how many hours they've played on Roll20 to give you an idea of what you're dealing with, how many current players, how many open slots, all these kind of things will be made available for you. So as a new player online, Roll20 is an excellent resource. Another resource out there is called Fantasy Grounds. I don't personally use it because I use Roll20. It's an either or kind of thing. You don't necessarily need to use them all. Fantasy Grounds is another virtual tabletop. I'm not 100% familiar with all of the tools involved with it because I haven't used it in so long, but it is another option for you. You can definitely look into that. But people are playing without, because of the fact that there's just two methods of play. There's the theater of the mind, and then there's the fully augmented tabletop experience. If you do theater of the mind, you can play with any chat program. So people are playing it through Zoom meetings, on Discord channels, Facebook, wherever there's a chat channel available. People used to play on Google Plus and MySpace channels. Facebook has now got their own Facebook rooms. You can go into a Facebook room and play. And there are, you can use a video and show, like the dungeon master or whatever could have a map set up in their home, and every once in a while point his camera at that map and show you where your characters are in position and everything. So you can have kind of a hybrid between theater of the mind and the full action game by that being done. There's different places where you can do virtual dice rolling, including D&D Beyond. As I showed you, you can roll your dice in D&D Beyond and use that, or like Roll20 lets you roll dice right there in Roll20 to get the dice rolls, or you can play by the honor system and just roll dice, or turn your camera on your dice tray and roll dice and let people see your rolls as they come up on the digital cam throw. So there's several ways you can do that when you're going to play. But if you're getting started in D&D as a player, especially, these are some of the tools you're going to look for. Now, I did say I was going to talk about not just being a player, but also being a dungeon master new to the scene of D&D. Now, if you're new to playing D&D, fifth edition is definitely a good starting edition to play, especially because of all the support currently out for it right now. If you wanted to play an older edition, you'd find a little bit less support and information out there, and a lot of the older editions would be a little bit harder to pick up. I personally find 4th edition quite easy to pick up, but there's some of the tools that I used and I use when I'm teaching people in 4th edition are not currently available anymore. So that would have an effect too. But 5th edition is really easy to pick up, and there's lots of support, and there's a lot of examples of play online that you can view to get you started. And as a new DM, I really recommend 5th edition as a way to come into the game. Now, if you're a new 5th edition gamer, what do you need to play? Now, the DM should have everything that the players have. So if the players each have player handbook, the DM should have the player handbook too. if you're starting with something like the starter kit of the essentials, that's fine. Excuse me. That's fine. Everybody can start with the same basic uh, stuff, or you can all work off of the one box of essentials or starter. And the DM, it's got information just for the DM in that starter box or that essentials box. And then there's information to share with the players. And that's fine to get started, to get you started on your first adventure, like which is the Mines of Phandelver. Uh, Coincidentally, the fully augmented Mines of Phandelver game for Roll20 is currently free on the Roll20 website if you're planning to play. So you can pick that up in their marketplace, and all the maps and everything and the monsters and stuff will be pre-detailed for you. What I just came in, what we just went in and showed you on Roll20, where you saw the detailed maps and the characters and stuff, I didn't set any of that up. Roll20 already did. I just activated their free copy of Phandelver in their marketplace. They do have a few other free adventures, like there's an introductory adventure to the Wildemount campaign setting that recently came out, and I am running that on my Monday group. So I do run from that. You can make your own maps and run your own homebrew stuff on Roll20. So as a DM, the resources on Roll20 are excellent. And so it's something, again, I recommend, especially right now when you're not necessarily going to meet face to face with a new gaming group, because you want to be a little cautious about who you're going to be around in close proximity right now, because we're still not quite over the COVID-19 scare. And, we're just a hand's breadth away from going back into shelter in place, depending on number of outbreaks. So be careful. Don't just, grab a group and start gathering around just because you can and everything. Try to be safe when you play. But as a DM, you're going to want that. Now, as also the Dungeon Master, when you really get going, you're going to want more monsters to play with than just what's in the Essentials books. And sure, you can search some of that out online, and you can create some monsters using some of the rules out of the basic PDF that you can download. But an invaluable book for you to pick up then would be the Monster Manual. Now, if you go in, I haven't pre-searched that one here, but it's okay. I'm going to go in here and go Monster Manual 5e, and it's going to give me the Monster Manual. And as you can see, that one retails $48.95 on Amazon, and again, it's about $60 retail MSRP. And right now, I can get it for $31.27 on Amazon as a Prime member. So I'm saving another almost $19. So it's not that expensive, really. For DM, it gives you a whole bunch of monsters that you can use in the game, including all of in the back, it's got all the creatures like the generic wolves and bears and stuff that your druids are going to want to turn into. Your wizards, rangers, and druids are going to summon with their spells, things of that nature. And you're going to have your basic monsters like everything from goblins and kobolds all the way up to the iconic dragons and beholders that really make D&D the game that it is. So as a DM, I consider this book invaluable. It's probably one of my most used books on my shelves, really. Although I do the D&D Beyond version of a lot of things nowadays, just for convenience purposes. I personally own the D&D Beyond digital copy of all three of the core books, the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player Handbook, and the Monster Manual, to have access to them. I also own physical copies of those books, so that I can work both online and offline when I'm preparing my adventure. Now, be prepared as a Dungeon Master, because you have homework. You're the one that has to go between games and prep everything and manage your table. And so you're going to find all kinds of ideas. You're going to go out on Facebook and Reddit, and you're going to see, you're going to get all confused. There's going to be tons of information coming at you from all sides. Don't worry about it. You can't screw up. I mean, you can screw up, but you can't screw up because there's no wrong way to play D&D. You're going to make some mistakes. That's just going to happen. When I started playing, I was 7 years old. I made tons of mistakes, and this was in harder editions. So you're going to make mistakes. Don't let them phase you. Just realize, learn from your mistakes, and try to be consistent. Take advice, but remember, it's advice. There's nothing saying that that person on the other end of the computer that tells you how to fix something, you have to follow their method to fix it. Be confident in your own abilities. Be open for more information, for guidance, but realize that it's still your game. And the first rule of Dungeons and Dragons, the one they often call it Rule Zero, but it's not, you know, printed as often as it used to be, is that it's the DM's game and they decide what goes on. They have what's called DM fiat because all the rules in the game are optional. Nothing in here is set in stone unless you're playing an organized play where there are specific rules about the rules that have to be used. You can make or break any rule in here. The only point is you want to keep the game fun and consistent. So if you change a rule for the players, change it for the monsters. If you change a rule for one player, make it the same for all players. If you bring in a house rule, try to make sure it's a house rule that affects everybody on a kind of an equal standing, so that you're playing in a consistent game. In the middle of playing your game, make a rules call and move on. Don't dwell on it. Don't dig through 16 books and online resources and look up sage advice. Try to answer a question. Answer the question to the best of your ability and move on. If later on somebody wants to contest that call outside the game afterwards, you can take a look at it and, if need be, retcon the situation and go back and make changes if they're not going to overtly affect the flow of the game. You can do that. If they are going to overtly affect the flow of the game, you can let the original ruling stand for that situation and say, going forward, this is the new ruling. You don't have to retcon. Only in a life or death situation would I recommend too much retconning and going back, because you don't want to replay a battle, for instance, because it's, even though each round is only like 6 seconds long, you might have 5 players, 5 villains. That's 10 creatures acting, each one getting their 6 seconds, which are actually happening simultaneously, but it feels like it's not simultaneous after everybody takes their turn. 2 hours later, you don't want to go back to the beginning of the encounter and restart because of a ruling, which is why I say make a calling, move on, and then retcon later if you absolutely have to, or let it slide and then make the rule more hard and fast afterwards. But so these are the tools that you're going to need as a dungeon master in D&D. So you're going to want your own player handbook. You're going to want your own monster manual. Good idea is to have a piece of, or a notebook of graph paper to note down like some of your adventure information, jot down some maps, stuff. Graph paper works great because you can put both pretty decent line drawings of adventures and caves and stuff, using the grid to kind of help orient you for when you go to reproduce it for the characters, but also it gives you a line system so you can write on that very page as well down below, just like having lined paper, and you just ignore the crosshatch lines as you write, and so you can keep all your notes in one place. I personally have started keeping my notes in a Google document and in Google Sheets. Between Google Docs and Google Sheets, I have all my notes. So that way, no matter where I go, my notes are there with me. It is the digital age. You will find that more and more gamers are going digital first if they have to make a choice between physical or digital copies of something. They go ahead and get the digital copy first, and they may go back later and get a physical copy if they have a use for it. Digital copies have a intrinsic value right now because you can adjust their font and everything for people with eyesight problems. You can do text to talk. If you have other handicap issues, you can easily store and carry your books everywhere as long as you got internet, or you can download and save into storage PDF versions and offline versions of certain websites, and that'll allow you to facilitate the game as well. Um, so, this being the digital age, don't be afraid to get digital copies of stuff. You don't have to have the physical ones to get by. Now, if you're going to a convention or some other organized event, there's no guarantee you're going to have internet access. So it is a good idea to keep an offline copy of things uh, for then, if nothing else, as a PDF on your phone or tablet, so you can at least access them without carrying on around all the books or having to have internet access, or have at least bring your own internet access that works in more places. I usually have the best of both worlds. I have my phone hotspot, my tablet has internet access of its own, and then I also have PDF copies of things directly stored on my uh, laptop and my tablet, and even on my phone. So thanks. But so, when if you're getting started in a game, we've taken about an hour, which is about what I wanted to take for this. Getting started as a player, you want at least the basic rules and probably the player handbook and a set of dice of your own. Even if you're going to play online and use digital dice programs, it's still a good idea to get your own dice set, so that if you ever do get the chance to play in person, you have a set of dice. You're not using loaner dice. People can be very superstitious about their dice, so it's a good idea to have your own set. And you can buy them in preset D&D sets for $5 to $12 in most gaming stores or online at Amazon. So it's usually not a problem getting a set of dice. And many DMs like myself carry loaner sets for people, new players that sit down at their table. Some game stores that have D&D clubs and such will even comp you your first basic set of dice if you're a new player in one of their clubs, as one of their incentive programs. Among other things, there's other things they can possibly do, but that's one possible way that they'll get to encourage you to come in and play. I did say that the starter and the essential sets come with basic dice as well. You usually, though, a lot of people want their dice to reflect their personality. So eventually you're going to get dice of different colors and different styles, just to show your uniqueness, and also to make it to where you don't mix your dice up with somebody else's. Uh, you start color coding. Okay, all black dice are this person's, all red dice are this person's, and so on, just so you kind of know table etiquette there. And like I said, there's a major superstition about dice. So you're going to find people with several sets of dice out there. Laura Bailey is famous for being one of those on Critical Role. She's what we call a dice goblin, because she likes to collect more and more dice. And when they're not working for her, she will put them in dice jail. My girlfriend has one of those, separate little container. So when a die is just not rolling good, after the third strike, is like, off to dice jail you go. We're going to set you in solitary confinement and punish you till you can start rolling right. Dang it. Because we treat our dice like they've got their own type of sentience. Uh, so yeah, as a player, you want your own set of dice, and a player handbook is probably your minimum basic equipment. And then you want to be familiar with whatever platform you're going to be playing on, whether it's live at the table, on Roll20, on Fantasy Grounds, through Discord, what have you. But those are what you're going to need. Now, if you're going to be a DM, you're going to step forward and you're going to probably also get the monster manual and make sure you have at least all the same resources that all your players have. So if all your players are using Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide, you should have your own copy of Player's Handbook and Xanathar's Guide. I didn't go into those kind of accessories, but the most commonly used accessory after the core books in 5th edition D&D is Xanathar's Guide. Xanathar's Guide introduces a lot of optional subclasses for the main classes in D&D, and a whole lot of new magic items and some other rules. It was one of the first expanded rule set books out in the 5th edition, and I know a lot of people swear they treat it as another core book, and they think of it as another essential tool. So Xanathar's is a good one to have. The other main one that's treated almost with the same kind of reverence, if not more so, is called Volo's Guide to Monsters. Because Volo's Guide to Monsters not only does it introduce other monsters and stuff into the game, as well as other rules content, it also presents some of the more bestial or savage character or monster races as character class race options, racial options. So, for instance, you can play a half orc through the regular player handbook, but say you wanted to play a full orc. Well, there's rules for playing a full orc in Volo's Guide. And if you play in certain league play, organized play, like for instance the Adventures League through Dungeons and Dragons, they have rules about how many of these source books that you can use. Adventures League has a rule called Player Handbook +1, meaning you can create your character using all the player handbook, save any specific exemptions your DM tells you before the game. And you can also use one other source from a list of sources that are considered legal in Adventures League. Now, in the current sources, both Volo's Guide and Xanathar's Guide are considered legal. They also have access to the Sword Coast guide book, which is based in the Forgotten Realms for anybody playing in the Forgotten Realms setting. Now, if you're playing in a different setting, some of the books you have access to will also change. Like, for instance, if you're playing in Eberron, the Eberron Rising books will be allowable to players. But, like, for instance, the Sword Coast Guide for options may not be available because it's set as campaign-specific stuff for the Forgotten Realms setting, and so it doesn't necessarily transfer over to Eberron, although you can do a more homogenous ruling and say that all stuff works everywhere. That's up to you as a DM as well. Feel it and find your comfort zone. Just like you want to find your comfort zone for a number of players at your table, amount of adult discussion that can go on, amount of side discussions can go on before you assert your dominance at the table and set down the rules, and you control the time frame and the flow of the game and making sure everybody's having fun. So you got to make sure you have fun too. Don't turn it into a chore. Even if you become a paid DM, don't turn it into a chore. Make sure that you're still having fun, because that is the spirit of the game that we're all into as our main stress relief and social interaction exercise. I hope that the information I gave everybody here doesn't look. We've only had maybe 2 viewers for at the high point of this broadcast, unless I missed it. I'm chewing on ice. I'm a kidney failure patient, so to control my fluid intake, I chew on ice more than I drink soda pop or juice or milk too much. It controls my overall fluid intake, and so you will see me reach for my ice container often during my broadcasts. No matter what way you come into the game, try to jump in and have some fun. Remember these tools that I've talked about here. If you want more details about the tools and various source books and stuff, keep watching the RPG College, because I touch on things like getting started with macros in Roll20. I talk about running your first, what they call session 0 of your game for DMs getting started, which is where you lay down your house rules and make certain expectations set between the players and the DMs, and even talk about taboo subjects and whether or not they're allowed in your game. I do have a show on that's available. I have a show on writing NPCs. It's a 2-parter, mainly because I lost connection partway through to the internet, and so it basically became a 2-part video. But it's on and these are all on my YouTube channel. Some of them are still in the history of this channel, but it only keeps it for about 7 to 10 days before it empties it out for new content. But go over to YouTube, search GamerSeuss, GamerSeuss, just like the beginning of my email address, which is gamerseuss@aol.com. And it'll bring you to my channel on YouTube, where you can look up these videos. I also can be found at gaming conventions and virtual conventions in the area. I did virtual VisionCon here from May 1st to the 3rd, where I ran 2 panels, one on writing NPCs and the other one on building encounters for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But of course, there's a lot of conceptual stuff in my panels too. They can be ported easily to other game systems, and even the craft of writing itself. I am a freelance writer. Uh, if you go to my Patreon to support me in my streaming and my other endeavors, one of the things that you will find that if you're a tier 2 $10 a month access member, you'll have access to chapters of my books before they go out to final publishing. Uh, how it works is when I finish a chapter, or in this first thing I've got is a prologue on a book there right now. I finish a prologue, I put it up for my tier 2 viewers to see for free. And I advertise to my tier 1 viewers that this is now available if they upgrade. And then when the next book or installment in that particular project comes out, if I come up with a prologue for another book, that'll be a separate project. Or I come up with a base system for a board game or card game, that's a separate project. But if I come up with, new stuff for this, I move the old stuff down one tier. So now I have the prologue for my book there now for tier 2 people. Once I come up with chapter 1, I'll put chapter 1 out in the exclusive tier 2 section, and the first chapter, in this case the prologue, will go over to the level 1 subscribers, the $5 a month subscribers. And if you're just a friend, don't feel like getting into buying into subscriptions, that's fine too. Just visit the channel, help keep my viewership up. That'll help me immensely as well, and won't cost you a thing. Since April, I've had about 350 people view my channel, so that's a lot. I do need to get 50 followers and an average of 3 people viewing at a time in order to go affiliate. Now, I do apologize, because once you're affiliate, you end up getting more commercials put in there by YouTube. But I have more ability to opt out of certain things and more personalize my channel because it's mine. If you use fingerprints and stuff to access your devices, of course, you can store most of those prints and things, and you just would have to take off your gloves or whatever to interact. I've got my tablet, or not my tablet, but my phone set up to, if I get see myself at the right angle as I'm approaching the phone, I don't even have to unlock it. It'll unlock itself, recognizing me, and voice commands. So those are things to be prepared for. As always, we support Extra Life here, which is gamers and other nerds working towards supporting children on the Children's Miracle Network. All donations that you go through us to this will go directly to the Extra Life program, and that's 100% there to the program. It's not all getting tied up in administrative fees, and it's not going to be shared out to the upper community. The amount is not, but we do like to reassure people in the various communities that we got other support coming in. My modest goal is to raise $1,000 by the end of the year for Christmas, before I go into other tracks, like I do, of course, represent Santa in a couple of events in town sometimes, and I'll run maybe a D&D themed game for kids somewhere as well. You never know. But keep an eye on your local news for these kind of things. Keep to this website, follow. Once I make affiliate, you can subscribe as well, and that'll help you out. Now I'm going to go ahead and set this to auto forward to another channel. Let's see. Who's am I going to do? Somebody playing Dark Cloud. That's good. I do run Dark Cloud sometimes. So we're going to send it over to Koruto 350's channel. You can see him or her play Dark Cloud for a while. If you ever go into my nostalgia gaming shows on Monday and Wednesday from 10 to midnight Central Standard Time, I will sometimes stream Dark Cloud one or two myself as the game of the night. My only other, like I said, scheduled show is from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here at the laundromat, learning different things about how to take care of gamers' clothing and such. Uh, you know, Mundane Life as a Gamer, Volume 1, those kind of things. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to start the raid, get on out of here, and everybody have a good time. Definitely support Extra Life if you can, and good luck. Okay, let's see.